the beautiful Taxco, Guerrero.
Taking a bus from here in Guerrero all the way to Mexico City, 2 buses through 3 states. We're talking all about our tips and tricks, how we do it, and is it dangerous?
We have made it to the bus station here in Taxco. It's an outside bus station, a little bit different.
Yeah.
But if it's your first time here, I'm Greg.
And I'm Hillary.
Orgullo y la huera los Kinetic Kennons, and we've been living in Mexico for just over 2 years now.
Yeah.
And we've been really dedicating our lives, the last year of our lives, to traveling Mexico and sharing the beauty of Mexico to and with the world. So we definitely do not know everything there is to know about traveling Mexico, but we made plenty of mistakes. Well, I was gonna say we've made a lot of mistakes along the way that we want to help hopefully you avoid those mistakes. We took a taxi here. Taxi versus Uber, taxi tips, whether you're just traveling across Mexico or even just in a town, I feel like being able to use a taxi situation is an important tip. What do we have to say? Yeah,
it really is. So Uber is popping up in a lot of cities across Mexico, similar to the United States and maybe parts of the world. We tend to like to use Uber. I like the transparency of the pricing, the transparency of the driver. I can share our route with our families, and it just feels a little bit more transparent versus a taxi that you just maybe hawk on the streets.
But most cities don't have Uber. Mexico City does, Vallarta does, Guadalajara does, but some of the, like for Taxco doesn't, some of the smaller cities, they're not gonna have Uber. And taxis are generally very, very safe, but we do enjoy the extra sense of transparency there is with Uber. Now in terms of using a taxi, there's one tip that will save you a lot of money, and that is always ask the price before you get in, before you put one bag inside. We always agree on a price before we ever step foot in the cab. The few times we have not done this, I do believe we have been overcharged, and again, you're just helping provide, create that level of transparency from the get-go. Once you get in, you will know what the price should be, and again, creating an extra level of transparency so there are no surprises when you make it. But before we go any further, before we miss our bus, our patron of the day, our sponsor of today's video, our siempre con todo patron of the day is
Karen M. Werner. Thank you, Karen, for sponsoring this video. Thank you to all of our patrons and all of you guys for watching, commenting, sharing the love, spreading the joy of Mexico. But a special thank you today goes out to Karen.
Thank you. I truly believe traveling Mexico the last year and a half, even just moving to Mexico, is the best decision we have ever made. Mexico has so many incredible things to offer, and most of those we travel to by bus. Now you may be more, if you're coming from the States, wherever, you're probably not accustomed to traveling bus. Like no one really
Nor
uses,
were we.
Nor were we. No one really uses Greyhound, the bus system in the United States. You usually just fly to destinations. But in our experience, flying is usually not an option.
Yeah, especially for towns like here in Taxco and any other smaller towns. there's typically not an airport that's very close, and if there is, it might be like a smaller airport, which is more expensive.
Exactly.
And we found that through mainly first-class bus travel, it is really inexpensive when coming from places like the United States.
Yeah.
Incredibly safe. I would say it's the mass way that the majority of people travel throughout Mexico.
Yes, I feel, just to add, I feel infinitely more safe sitting in this bus station here in Taxco, which I might add, Taxco is in the state of Guerrero, which the U.S. Department of State says we absolutely should not be here. I feel infinitely more safe in this bus station than I do in an airport in the United States.
Yeah, and the last thing I wanted to say is that bus travel is a lot less stressful. Now, Greg and I have flown probably hundreds of times through airports. We still get stressed. There's
Yes.
a level of security. You don't know how long that's going to take. You don't know if your bag will get pulled aside. You feel like you need to get there an hour and a half to 2 hours before your flight. Not the case at a bus station. We arrive about 20 minutes
If that,
before.
Sometimes we cut it
Sometimes
pretty
we cut
close.
it a little close, but just the ease and the lack of stress that comes with bus travel really makes it, it eats up some of that time. So while a flight may be a little bit quicker, getting there 2 hours early really eats into that time saver.
Exactly.
These cookies are delicious. 12 pesos. It comes with like 15 things. And this video is not sponsored by Gamesa.
Gamesa.
But they're delicious. We're on Futuro, part of the Costa Line Futuro Turistar brand. Never used it before. Futura. Not too bad. Not too bad.
Not bad. We have made it to Cuernavaca. Now,
Just barely in time.
we're about 10 minutes before our next bus, which leads us to the next point in bus travel across Mexico. Greg and I tend to buy our tickets ahead of time online. You can choose your seats on many of these first class buses, pay online, and I think there's a 10% discount. However, that does limit you instead of just showing up to the bus station like most everyone else does
Yes.
here in Mexico. There's typically plenty of seats, but if you want to be guaranteed a seat, Greg and I often buy our tickets
Yeah.
ahead of time. They send you the boarding pass straight to your phone, just like you would an airplane ticket, and that's typically what we do.
Yes, Primera Plus they want you to print out your tickets, so if you get an email, you have to find a way to print them. At the end, it does not. And a lot of times, buses leave like every half hour, every hour on the hour, so
And again, you can check those schedules online before you make it to the bus station. Now then, our bus leaves in about 7 or 8 minutes to head to Mexico Norte.
The next to last leg of today's trip is ETN from Cuernavaca, Mexico Norte. ETN, right? ETN is like by far if they have the ETN option, it's the nicest. It has the most leg room, probably the most expensive, but it's really not. How much more is this compared to
The ride from Cuernavaca to Mexico Norte was around $17 for 2 tickets.
for both tickets? How much would it be on maybe the next level down, do you think?
12?
Yeah, it's a little bit more expensive, but well worth it. You have your own TV screen. Well, we've done a whole video over this. We'll link it below, but
It's perfect for napping.
perfect for napping.
oh, pretty good. If there's one thing you must know about traveling Mexico is that Now this is very important, listen up. Traffic in Mexico City is exhausting. But nonetheless, we made it to Mexico Norte. This bus station it's like a huge airport. One last leg of the trip. Hillary's calling an Uber. We've got to walk.
Hello, Uber.
Half a mile. We've got to walk, well, it feels like half a mile to go to get the car. We'll see. We'll finish up at home with our last and the actual most important tips for traveling. 2.5 days later, we finally remembered to film the end of this video because, well, after some mezcal and Taxco, you just start forgetting things. The most important, or one of the most important tips about traveling Mexico, I think, is it is infinitely more easy with a more advanced level of Spanish. Now, my Spanish, our Spanish is definitely not advanced, but it just makes the whole process easier when you're confident about walking up to the ticket counter, asking a question, or asking someone if this is your bus, whatever that may be. That said, if you don't know Spanish, that's okay. I still believe you definitely should travel Mexico. Everybody should be like bussing around this beautiful, beautiful country, but definitely brush up on your Spanish. If you have any questions or want some maybe tips, shoot us an email at kinetic@gmail.com, and we have written a blog post actually about my tips, tricks, and mistakes while learning Spanish. Amigos, we love Mexico. We love traveling this beautiful country. Like I said at the beginning of the video, is by far the best thing we have ever done. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. Click the bell that way you get notified
Every time.
we upload a new video, and we'll see you
Tomorrow.
underneath this time for Mexico City. The other day we said for Mexico City, then we had filmed this one the day before. This time it's really for Mexico City.
What?